companies are about to start charging different prices for each individual customer based on their spending habits online. So imagine this. You tell your friend Cam, "Hey Cam, I saw you were wearing those shoes. I'm thinking of buying them. Do you think they'd be good for me?" You send a link. Cam says, "Yeah, they're great shoes. I love them. I have a few pairs. They would look good on you. You should get them." Okay, and I feel like $80 is a really good price for these. Cam says, "I've been paying $120 for these. What do you mean?" And you say, "Looks like they're on sale then. They're $80. And Cam says, "Look at this," sends a screenshot. "They're $120. You say, "My screen says $80 for the same shoe." You send a screenshot. You're both dumbfounded. The same company for the same product is charging you both different prices because maybe Cam looks at that type of product a lot. He owns a few pair of shoes like that. Maybe you haven't done a lot of browsing for those kinds of shoes before, so the company doesn't think you'd be willing to pay a higher price than $80 for these shoes. This is the future of pricing and technology. Let me explain. This is called personalized pricing, and companies will take whatever consumer data they can buy on you, run it through an algorithm that will determine what is the maximum price you're willing to pay to have that thing. The economics behind this are really interesting. Normal chart, we're going to put quantity here. How many items? Shoes in this case. Price here. Stay with me, I'm going to break it down. This is supply. This is demand. When the price goes up, where's blue? We lost blue? Ow. When the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. When the price goes up, the amount of supply the company has, the stuff that people are not buying, that goes up. So, in a world where the shoes, let's say, cost $80 for everyone, look at all of these dollars that the company is not getting. If they're charging above $80, look at all of this demand that they would not be getting. So they make a trade-off and they set an ideal price to get as much consumers purchasing the thing to maximize the profits they're making. Just get rid of that for simplicity's sake. What if, however, you're someone who's willing to pay $90 for the shoes and they're priced at $80? You're like, sweet, you get $10 in what we call consumer surplus, or what I call dopamine. If I'm going thrifting and I buy a dress for $5 and this dress is something that is worth like $200, I just got $195 in consumer surplus, or according to girl math, I just made $195 because I could sell this dress for what it's really worth one day. And that's why I like vintage shopping. Okay, that's why we go out looking for deals for this magical thing called consumer surplus. What these companies are trying to do, however, is if you're willing to pay, let's say, $60 for the shoes, maybe they could sell you them for $60 and they're only profiting, say, $20, when they could be profiting a hell of a lot more. But as me and my friends used to say when we were bartending, $20 is $20. We would do a lot for $20. Anyway, not the point of this. The point of this is that if you're willing to pay $120, companies can show you on your browser that this item is listed for $120 based on your consumer data. If you're only willing to pay $60, they can show you that price. So everyone ends up paying the highest possible price they're willing to pay. And they're starting to get very accurate with this with these large machine learning models. They can do it very quickly. And so what does this mean? Maximum profits to them? No consumer surplus for us. So all of that dopamine we get from shopping the sales, it's gone. But thankfully, we'll always have the thrift store. Okay, this is really going to change online shopping, though. Thanks to technology and digital surveillance, they're going to be spying on us to decide what to charge us for things that we really like and care about. I'm going to give you an example of this. This past week, I signed up for a food subscription service where they send you the ingredients and you can make something so that you don't overshop at the grocery store. But they wouldn't let me browse their wares. I wanted to see what they had, and I had to sign up. So it was free for the first month. I just sign up. I don't like what's there. I'm like, okay, I need to cancel. There's no cancel button. I have to chat with a bot. The bot says, if we were to give you the first 2 months free, would you stay? I say, no, cancel my subscription. I don't like what you have to offer. They're like, all right, how about a $60 credit and 2 months free? I'm like, no, I need you to cancel this subscription. Okay, how about 2 months free, 15% off for a year, $60 credit? I'm like, I will report you to the Better Business Bureau if you do not cancel my account. I'm getting angry at the bot, which bots don't process emotions, but they can evoke them. And I find that to be terribly unfair, but it comes down to it. They end up canceling. Now, that price, when you sign up, $60 credit, 2 months free, 15% off for the first year. That's not the price they charge everyone. So they are already trying to pinpoint what I'm willing to pay and keep me at a customer. They don't have a universal pricing scheme, and they're using this chatbot to sort of sort me into the category. And I could have kept going with the robot and haggling it down, but I was too emotional, and they assumed that market actors are rational. We're not. And so at that point, just to prove a point, I was not going to take a good deal. Anyway, airline companies do a thing called price discrimination. This is not like real discrimination, okay? It's a technical term for sort of finding different categories of what people are willing to pay for slightly better or slightly worse services. Basic economy, no bag, but maybe you're just going to a friend's house for a couple days, you're just bringing a backpack. That works for you. You don't want to pay a lot on a flight. Maybe it's the fourth leg of a long voyage. You have a lot of bags. You're really going to be exhausted after a layover. So you book business, right? You're willing to pay more to have a couple drinks, to have a meal, to have all of your bags, to get on and off first, right? They already sort of capture the price people are willing to pay. Those are similar things that are already happening, but real personalized pricing has been tested. This gets really crazy when you introduce the tech that we have to use our data against us, okay? The University of Chicago talked about this case study in 2018 that's getting talked about a lot now, and it's ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter offers this service to businesses where they'll post their job. They will then find candidates using a machine learning algorithm and encourage people to apply. Basically, it's a tech company that sorts potential candidates that are good and that maybe these businesses will want to hire. So they pay ZipRecruiter a monthly fee of $99. It used to be this flat rate until they said, well, different businesses have different needs. Maybe we could be charging more, or maybe, there are some companies that need less. So what they decided to do was in September 2015, they ran this experiment. When a customer went to sign up, they were randomly assigned a price. The prices were between $19 and $399. Then they were fed a questionnaire to collect data, of course, from ZipRecruiter, like what benefits do you offer, where are you located, what kind of business is this, all that stuff. In the second month of the experiment, based on the data they collected, new customers were being assigned a price based on an algorithm of what different people signed up for and what they were willing to pay. Those prices ranged from a monthly fee of $142 up to $399. So they realized they could raise the price. Of course, there were customers that were like, I'm not willing to pay this high of a price. They missed some of those customers, but with this model, revenues were up 14%. And then they found that ZipRecruiter could actually increase profits by charging a much higher price, between $249 and $399 a month. ZipRecruiter then found that if they personalized the price for each customer, they could maximize profits. Relative to the flat $99 a month price, with this targeted personalized pricing, they increased profits by 84%. Now, I used to work in data and analytics for a nonprofit, and I was shocked at the amount of consumer data available on people. We use this data. We wanted to talk to people across the country that were tenants to develop a tenant's bill of rights. What do people who rent properties from others have a right to as the occupier of that home? And also, we were organizing tenants unions, having people get together to fight back against landlords that were not making repairs, that were charging unfair rent hikes, doing unfair evictions, things of that nature. And I found out that we had consumer data, financial data, where we could see at the individual level with cell phone numbers who had a mortgage and who didn't. So I took the data set, took out the people who showed up as having a mortgage, and we sent texts talking to these people. And it was extremely effective, accurate data on who was a renter and who was not. And that's an example of data being like a knife. You can use a knife to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and that's wonderful. You can also use a knife to hurt people, okay? And so knowing that data can be used used for good and used for evil is important. I think when the top 10% of the country owns 93% of all stocks, and maximizing profits as much as possible to transfer wealth from regular working people to the richest people in our society, that's the knife. That scares me. That should not happen. And I think about the ZipRecruiter scenario as how this could be maybe applied one day to find the lowest possible wage and benefits that an employee or someone searching for a job would be willing to take, and them using their data, their algorithms, and technology to ensure people are paid as little as possible at their job and paying as much as possible to get the things they need in life. Because imagine a single mom who is very busy, who buys baby food online, and she gets it delivered to her house because she doesn't have a lot of time to go to the store. So there's a lot of financial data, consumer data on her purchases there. And no matter what, she has to buy this pre-made baby food because she doesn't have time to cook. She's a single mom in America, okay? And rent's expensive, and she should join a tenants union. Anyway, so she has all this consumer data. Imagine a very rich mom who sends the nanny out to go pay cash to buy organic baby food. She, potentially, is being charged a lower price now than the single mom with all this consumer data on her. Maybe they're charging her 15, 20% more because they see she really needs this. They see that she buys it online. And so that's a bad scenario. It's an example of how they can use this to squeeze money out of consumers in a way that hurts people who are already struggling. What if a company got individual level data on who doesn't have a mortgage, and they use this to charge more for the type of tiles that you can stick on the floor and then remove, or removable wallpaper? They charged more for those products to renters, knowing they'd be willing to pay more for that because they can't afford to lose their security deposit because they decorated their home, God forbid. They're using technology to get as much money as possible out of us, when maybe we could be using this technology to make our lives better, make things less expensive. But it seems to me that they're using this to be a way to continually transfer wealth from the working people who make things with their own two hands, who build the economy, who make it run, and transfer it to the people who put money into the stock market and watch it turn into more based off of the work working people do all day long, most of the hours of their waking lives. That seems unfair. And yes, they already do price discrimination. They already can use AI chatbots to figure out the price you're willing to pay for something, even if it pisses you off. But at the end of the day, the algorithms and the technology make this so much faster, and people do so much online shopping. And maybe the price that they're charging for an item should be determined by the quality of the item. The same product shouldn't be something that I pay $20 more for than my neighbor does. And so I would really like to see technology be used to make our lives better and easier and life more affordable, so we can focus on the things that actually matter instead of these economic inventions that are used to squeeze money out of people that are already struggling to make ends meet, so that the richest people in our society can make more money. But I think it's really important that people know that this is going on. I really want to know what you all think about this. I went out and got a degree in data-driven policy because I realized that the economy doesn't work for everyday working people like my family. We nearly lost our home during the financial crisis, but my dad literally builds homes with his own two hands. He's a carpenter. Why was he losing work when people on Wall Street were getting bailed out with billions and billions and billions of dollars in government money? It doesn't make any sense. And those were the people that gambled the housing market into a massive economic crash. But my dad, who builds the homes, and our family is struggling, it didn't sit right with me. And so when I went on to go to school and understand a lot of these things, how the economy works, how pricing works, who makes decisions to accumulate more money endlessly, who does the actual work, I decided that I'm going to spend the rest of my life telling other people who grew up the way I did why it's like this, that people are struggling by design, and that it's not the case that a few people at a really smart school have figured it all out and that's why we can't have nice things. That actually There are people that are doing very well and they're keeping us struggling so that they can live really lavish lives. And they make economics really hard to understand on purpose. They use language we don't use every day so that everyday people don't really learn what's going on. And so I'll be posting a lot more economics videos on my channel. I've been making them a lot on TikTok and Instagram and other platforms, but I'm really excited to bring them here, where we can talk about them for a little bit longer to understand them a little bit deeper. So let me know what you think, and if you have ideas for other videos, comment below.